My sister made me her maid of honor, unaware her billionaire groom-to-be was my ex, and the father of my child. You have a son? My son. Levi's voice cut through the wedding reception noise like a blade. I froze, champagne glass halfway to my lips, as the question I dreaded for 5 years finally came. Around us, guests continued dancing and laughing, oblivious to the bomb that had just detonated in my carefully constructed life. Not here, I whispered, setting down my glass. Yes, here. His eyes, those same intense brown eyes I'd once loved, were now hard with fury. 4 years old? Born in December? Do the math, Lillian. You were pregnant when I left. I glanced across the reception hall where my sister Vanessa, radiant in her designer wedding gown, was dancing with her new billionaire husband. The same husband who had just introduced my ex as his brilliant business partner and best friend. The same ex who now stood before me, demanding answers about the child he never knew existed. You had no right to keep this from me, Levi said, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. You had no right to walk away, I countered. Have you ever kept a secret so big it shaped your entire life? Have you stood face to face with someone who once knew everything about you, only to realize they don't know the most important thing of all? Before we get into the mess, my best friend bet me lunch that we wouldn't hit our subscriber goal this month. I am trying to eat good, so do me a favor and smash that subscribe button. It is totally free and means the world to me. Drop a comment with your city so I know who I am talking to. Now, sit back and enjoy the story about how quickly a perfect wedding day can turn into your worst nightmare when the past comes knocking. 5 years before my sister's wedding, I was Dr. Lillian Foster, third-year surgical resident at Atlanta Memorial Hospital, married to Levi Thornton, rising star at a global investment firm. We were the power couple our friends envied, both ambitious, both driven, both building careers that demanded everything we had. We'd met in college, married after graduation, and spent 7 years building our lives together. I supported him through business school while working night shifts to pay our rent. He cheered me on through medical school and the brutal first years of my surgical residency. We were partners, equals, a team, until the day Levi came home with news that would end everything. They're offering me the Singapore position, he said, eyes bright with excitement. Executive track, triple my current salary, stock options. This is everything we've been working toward. I remember standing in our kitchen, still wearing scrubs from a 16-hour shift, trying to process what he was saying. Singapore? When would we go? His expression shifted. That's what we need to talk about. They need me there in 6 weeks. 6 weeks? Levi, I'm in the middle of my residency. I can't just leave. There are hospitals in Singapore where I'd have to start over, requalify, lose years of progress. The argument that followed wasn't our first, but it was our last. 2 days later, Levi sat across from me at our dining table, his expression resolved. I think we want different things, he said quietly. You're focused on your career. I need someone who puts our relationship first. What he meant was, I need someone who will follow me to Singapore without question. What I didn't say was, I just found out I'm pregnant. I discovered the pregnancy the morning after he told me he wanted a divorce. 2 pink lines on a test I'd taken because my period was late and I'd been feeling nauseated during rounds. I sat on the bathroom floor for an hour, staring at those lines, wondering how something so wanted could come at such a wrong time. I never told him. Pride, anger, hurt, all kept me silent. By the time I'd considered reaching out, he was already in Singapore, already building a new life without me. And I was building one too as a single mother and surgeon. I named our son Elijah. He was born on December 12th, a week early, with Levi's eyes and my smile. My best friend Maya held my hand through 18 hours of labor. My mother flew in to help for 2 weeks, alternating between practical support and pointed comments about children needing fathers, and how I was making things harder than they needed to be. I told my family Elijah was the result of a brief relationship after my divorce. Only Maya knew the truth. It was easier that way. No questions about why I hadn't told Levi, no pressure to reach out to him, no judgment about my choices. Just me and my son, figuring out life together. By the time my sister's wedding invitation arrived, Elijah was 4, I was a pediatric surgeon with my own practice, and Levi Thornton was a distant memory, or so I thought. The day of the wedding arrived with perfect weather and imperfect timing. I'd arranged for my neighbor Jenny to watch Elijah overnight, packed his favorite dinosaur pajamas, and promised to call before bedtime. Being maid of honor meant I couldn't escape the full day of wedding festivities, though I'd managed to avoid most pre-wedding events by claiming surgeries that couldn't be rescheduled. I arrived at the garden venue early, hoping to help Vanessa and then find a quiet corner to hide in until the ceremony. The venue was spectacular. A historic estate with manicured gardens, oak trees draped in fairy lights, white chairs arranged in neat rows facing a floral arch where my sister would soon say her vows. I was adjusting my emerald green bridesmaid dress when I heard a voice I hadn't heard in 5 years but would recognize anywhere. Lillian. I turned slowly, already knowing who I'd see. Levi Thornton stood 10 feet away, wearing a tailored gray suit that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. His dark skin glowed in the afternoon sun, and his closely cropped hair now featured touches of gray at the temples that hadn't been there before. He looked successful, confident, and completely shocked to see me. "What are you doing here?" I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. "I'm a groomsman. James and I work together." He took a step closer. "I had no idea you'd be here." "I'm the maid of honor," I said. "Vanessa is my sister." Understanding dawned on his face. Foster. I didn't make the connection. Of course he hadn't. I'd been Lillian Thornton when we were together. I changed my name back after the divorce. "Does Vanessa know?" he asked quietly. "That my ex-husband is friends with her fiancé?" "No." I glanced toward the venue. "And she's not going to find out today." Levi nodded. Agreed. What I didn't say, what I couldn't say, was that Levi wasn't just my ex-husband. He was also the father of my son. A son he didn't know existed. "I should check on Vanessa," I said, already turning away. "Lillian." His voice stopped me. "It's good to see you." I didn't respond, just kept walking, my heart hammering against my ribs. Inside the bridal suite, Vanessa was standing on a small platform while the wedding planner made final adjustments to her dress. A custom-made gown with a sweetheart neckline and delicate beading that had cost more than my car. "There you are," Vanessa exclaimed. "Where have you been? I need you to help with my veil." I forced a smile. "Sorry, just getting some air." As I helped secure the cathedral-length veil, my mind raced. How was this happening? What were the odds that my sister would fall in love with a man who worked with my ex-husband? That Levi would be standing at the same altar where I'd soon have to stand? That after 5 years of careful separation, we'd be thrown together at the one event I couldn't escape? "You look distracted," Vanessa said, studying my reflection in the mirror. "Is everything okay?" "Just thinking about Elijah." I lied. "Jenny texted that he's doing fine." Vanessa smiled. "My perfect nephew. I still can't believe you never told us who his father is." "Some mysteries are better left unsolved," I said lightly, the way I always did when this topic came up. "Well, after today you'll have James to help spoil him," Vanessa said. "He's already talking about being Elijah's uncle." I nodded, unable to form words around the knot in my throat. The wedding coordinator poked her head into the room. 20 minutes, ladies." I excused myself to use the restroom. I locked the door behind me, leaned against the sink, and took several deep breaths. I could get through this. One ceremony, one reception, and then I could go home to Elijah and figure out what to do. My phone buzzed with a text from Jenny. "Elijah wants to say goodnight to Mommy. Call when you can." I checked my watch. I had a few minutes. I dialed the number. "Mommy." Elijah's voice came through the speaker, and I felt my chest tighten. He had Levi's eyes. Everyone said so, though no one made the connection. "Hi, baby. Are you being good for Miss Jenny?" "Yes. We made cookies and watched Moana." "When are you coming home?" "After Aunt Vanessa's party, remember? I'll be there when you wake up tomorrow." "Promise." "Promise. I love you to the moon and back. And to Saturn and Jupiter too." I smiled. That's right. Now be good and go to sleep. I ended the call and stared at my reflection. The woman looking back at me seemed calm, composed. No one would guess I was falling apart inside. Back in the bridal suite, the bridesmaids were lining up. Vanessa grabbed my hands. "I'm so happy you're here with me today," she said. "I know we haven't always been close, but having you as my maid of honor means everything." Guilt twisted in my stomach. We hadn't been close because Vanessa had always been our parents' favorite. The beautiful, charming daughter who followed their rules and expectations. I had been the rebel, the one who chose medicine over marriage, who divorced my husband rather than give up my career. And now here we were, with Vanessa marrying a billionaire while I stood by her side, hiding the fact that one of the groomsmen was my ex-husband and my son's father. "I wouldn't miss it," I said, squeezing her hands. The ceremony was a blur. I walked down the aisle ahead of my sister, careful not to look at Levi, who stood with the other groomsmen beside James. I focused on my steps, on holding my bouquet at the right angle, on smiling for the photographer. When Vanessa and James exchanged vows, my eyes betrayed me, drifting to Levi. He was already watching me, his expression unreadable. I looked away quickly. After the ceremony, during the cocktail hour, I managed to avoid Levi by staying close to Vanessa, helping with her dress, fetching champagne, playing the perfect maid of honor. But as the reception began and the wedding party was announced, I couldn't escape any longer. And now, maid of honor Lillian Foster escorted by groomsman Levi Thornton. We walked into the reception tent together, his hand lightly touching my back. The contact sent electricity up my spine. "We need to talk," he said under his breath as we smiled for the cameras. "Not now," I replied through my fixed smile. "When? Never would be good." We separated at the head table, taking our assigned seats on opposite ends. Throughout dinner, I felt Levi's gaze on me. I kept my attention on Vanessa and James, laughing at the right moments, raising my glass for toasts, playing my part. After my maid of honor speech, a carefully crafted collection of childhood memories and well wishes that revealed nothing of my true feelings, I escaped to the venue's terrace. The night air was cool against my skin. In the distance, the city lights twinkled like fallen stars. Hiding. I didn't need to turn to know it was Levi. "Taking a break," I corrected. He came to stand beside me at the railing. "You look beautiful, Lillian." Don't what?" "Tell the truth." I turned to face him. "Don't pretend we're friends catching up at a wedding. We're not friends. We're barely acquaintances at this point." Levi's jaw tightened. "Is that what we are? After 7 years together, 5 years married, 2 years divorced, 5 years of silence." I counted off. "Yes, that's exactly what we are. I tried to contact you after the divorce was finalized." "To what end?" "You made your choice, Levi. You chose your career over our marriage." He laughed, a short, bitter sound. "That's rich coming from you. You're the one who refused to come to Singapore. You chose your residency over me. I chose not to abandon everything I'd worked for. There are hospitals in Singapore. You could have found a position there. I was offered the opportunity of a lifetime. And I was supposed to just follow you? Give up my career to be your wife in a foreign country." We stared at each other, the old argument hanging between us like a physical thing. "This is pointless," I said finally. "It doesn't matter anymore, doesn't it?" Levi stepped closer. "Because it feels like it matters a lot." Before I could respond, the wedding planner appeared at the terrace door. "Lillian, Vanessa's looking for you. It's almost time for the bouquet toss." "I'll be right there," I said, grateful for the interruption. As I moved to leave, Levi caught my wrist. "This conversation isn't over." I pulled away. "Yes, it is. It's been over for 5 years." Back inside the reception, I plastered on a smile and joined the group of single women gathering for the bouquet toss. I stood at the back, hoping to avoid catching the flowers, but Vanessa had other plans. "Lillian, get up here," my sister called, waving me forward. Reluctantly, I moved to the front of the group. Vanessa turned her back, counted to 3, and tossed the bouquet directly at me. I caught it reflexively. The The crowd cheered. Vanessa hugged me. Your turn next, sis. I forced a laugh. No rush. As the night wore on, I found myself cornered by my mother near the dessert table. Elijah looks more like his father every day, my mother said, sipping champagne. When are you going to tell us who he is? Mom, not tonight. I'm just saying a boy needs his father. And you're not getting any younger, Lillian. 35 is. I'm 34, Mom. Still. Look at Vanessa. 29 and married to a wonderful man with a bright future. I bit back a retort. This was my sister's day. I wouldn't ruin it with an argument. I'm happy for Vanessa, I said instead. And Elijah and I are doing just fine. My mother sighed. You always were stubborn. As my mother walked away, I felt a presence behind me. Your mother hasn't changed, Levi observed. I turned. Still eavesdropping, I see. Hard not to overhear. Who's Elijah? The question hit me differently. I set down my champagne glass, suddenly needing both hands free. My son, I said, watching his face carefully. Levi's expression shifted from curiosity to something unreadable. You have a son? Yes. How old? I hesitated. 4. I saw him doing the math in his head, saw the moment realization dawned. 4, he repeated. When's his birthday? December 12th. Levi went very still. We separated in March. 5 years ago. I said nothing. Were you pregnant when I left? I looked away. I found out the day after you told me you wanted a divorce. Levi took a step back. And you didn't tell me? You made it clear our marriage was over. You were leaving for Singapore. What was I supposed to do? Tell me I was going to be a father. His voice rose slightly, and he glanced around before continuing more quietly. You had no right to keep that from me. I had every right, I hissed. You walked away from our marriage without a second thought. You didn't want a wife who prioritized her career. How would you have felt about a child? That wasn't your decision to make. It became my decision when you signed those divorce papers. We stared at each other, the weight of 5 years of secrets hanging between us. I want to meet him, Levi said finally. No. He's my son, Lillian. Biologically, yes, but you haven't been his father for 4 years. You don't get to walk in now and disrupt his life. Levi's jaw tightened. I have rights. You gave up those rights when you left. I didn't know about him. That's not my problem. Y'all, I can't even begin to tell you how my heart was racing in that moment. If you're feeling the tension in the story, please hit that subscribe button right now. I pour my heart into these stories, and your support is what keeps me going. Each subscriber means the world to me. It's like having someone hold my hand through these difficult memories. If my story is touching you in any way, please subscribe. I promise to keep bringing you these real, raw moments from my life. Levi stepped closer, his voice low and intense. If you think I'm going to walk away from my son now that I know he exists, you don't know me at all. I thought I knew you once, I said. I was wrong then, too. He grabbed my arm as I tried to turn away. This isn't over, Lillian. Not by a long shot. I yanked my arm free. Let go of me. Is everything okay here? James, my new brother-in-law, appeared beside us, his expression concerned. He looked between Levi and me, clearly sensing the tension. Everything's fine, I said quickly. Just catching up with an old friend. Levi's eyes never left my face. James, did you know Lillian and I used to be married? James's eyebrows shot up. Married? No, I had no idea. It was a long time ago, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Ancient history. Not that ancient, Levi countered. And apparently with some ongoing chapters one wasn't aware of. James looked confused. I'm sorry, am I missing something here? Nothing that needs to be discussed at your wedding, I said firmly. Congratulations again, James. I think I'm going to call it a night. So soon. James frowned. Vanessa will be disappointed. I have an early surgery tomorrow, I lied. Please tell her I wasn't feeling well. I turned to leave, but Levi's voice stopped me. Lillian, we're not done. I looked back at him. Yes, we are. Just like we were 5 years ago. I made my way through the reception, stopping only to grab my purse and wrap from the bridal suite. I texted Vanessa that I wasn't feeling well and would call her tomorrow. It was cowardly, but I couldn't face her right now. Not with Levi's revelations still ringing in my ears. The drive home was a blur. My hands shook on the steering wheel as I replayed the confrontation over and over. Levi knew about Elijah now. Everything was about to change. Jenny was asleep on the couch when I arrived home. I paid her, thanked her, and then went to Elijah's room. He was sleeping soundly, his dark hair tousled against the pillow, one arm wrapped around his favorite stuffed dinosaur. I sat on the edge of his bed, watching the rise and fall of his chest. He looked so much like Levi. The same jawline, the same brown eyes, the same determined expression when he was concentrating. How had I thought I could keep them apart forever? My phone buzzed with a text. Unknown number. We need to talk. Tomorrow. About our son. Levi. Of course he'd gotten my number somehow. I didn't respond. Instead, I changed out of my bridesmaid dress, washed my face and climbed into bed. Sleep eluded me as I stared at the ceiling, replaying the evening's events. 5 years ago, I'd made a choice born of hurt and pride. I'd kept my pregnancy a secret, raised Elijah alone, built a life that didn't include Levi. I told myself it was for the best, that a father who could walk away from his marriage so easily wouldn't be a reliable parent. But now, lying in the dark, I faced an uncomfortable truth. I'd been wrong. Not about Levi's choice to leave, but about my decision to keep Elijah a secret. Whatever Levi's failings as a husband, he deserved to know he had a son. And more importantly, Elijah deserved to know his father. The realization didn't make the situation any easier. Levi would be angry, justifiably so. He might even seek custody. The carefully constructed life I'd built could crumble around me. But for the first time in 5 years, I allowed myself to consider a different future. One where Elijah knew his father, where the burden of single parenthood wasn't mine alone, where the secret I'd carried for so long was finally out in the open. My phone buzzed again. Please, Lillian. He's my son too. This time I responded. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. The park near my house. I'll text you the address. Whatever happened next, there was no going back. The truth was out and we would all have to live with the consequences. Me, Levi, and most importantly, the little boy sleeping peacefully down the hall, unaware that his world was about to change forever. I barely slept that night. By morning, I'd gone through every possible scenario for the meeting with Levi. None of them ended well. I made breakfast for Elijah, trying to act normal as he chattered about his sleepover with Miss Jenny and the cookies they'd baked. "Can we go to the park today?" he asked, syrup dripping from his chin. I wiped his face with a napkin. "Actually, yes. After lunch." "Yay. Can I bring my soccer ball?" "Of course." I didn't tell him we'd be meeting someone. I couldn't find the words to explain who Levi was or why he'd suddenly appeared in our lives. How do you tell a 4-year-old that the father he's never known is about to walk into his world? At 1:45, we arrived at the park. Elijah ran straight for the playground, his soccer ball forgotten in the car when he spotted the swings. I sat on a bench where I could watch him, my stomach in knots. "Higher, Mommy. Push me higher," he called, and I walked over to give him a few pushes before returning to the bench. At exactly 2 o'clock, Levi appeared on the path. He was dressed casually now, jeans and a button-down shirt, but still looked like he'd stepped out of a magazine. He spotted me immediately and walked over, his eyes scanning the playground until they landed on Elijah. He stopped a few feet from the bench. "Is that him?" I nodded. "That's Elijah." Levi stared at our son, who was now climbing up the ladder to the slide. I saw emotions flash across his face. Wonder, pain, anger, longing. "He looks like me," he said quietly. "Everyone says so." Levi sat down beside me, never taking his eyes off Elijah. I missed 4 years of his life. Yes, his first steps, his first words, his first day of school. "Preschool," I corrected. He starts kindergarten in the fall. Levi turned to me, his eyes hard. How could you do this, Lillian? How could you keep him from me? You left, I said simply. You made it clear our marriage wasn't as important as your career. What was I supposed to think about how you'd feel about a child? You didn't give me the chance to decide that for myself. No, I didn't. We sat in silence for a moment watching Elijah play. I came back, you know, Levi said finally. 2 years ago. I tried to find you. I turned to him, surprised. What? I took a position at the Atlanta office. I looked for you, but you'd moved. Changed your number. Your friends wouldn't tell me anything. You went to Singapore. For 3 years. It wasn't what I thought it would be. He looked at me. Nothing was after you. I didn't know what to say to that. I'd spent 5 years building a narrative where Levi had moved on without a backward glance. Where his career had been everything he'd wanted. The idea that he'd come back, that he'd looked for me, didn't fit that story. Mommy! Watch me! Elijah called, preparing to go down the slide. I waved. I'm watching, baby. Levi's breath caught. He's perfect. He is. I want to meet him, Lillian. I hesitated. I don't know if that's a good idea right now. He's my son. I have a right to know him. And what happens when you decide your career needs you in another country again? What happens when he gets attached to you and then you leave? Levi's jaw tightened. That's not fair. Isn't it? You left once before. I didn't know I had a son then. We were interrupted by Elijah running over, slightly out of breath. Mommy, who's that? He asked, pointing at Levi. I froze. I hadn't prepared for this moment, hadn't decided what to tell him. Levi saved me. Hi there, he said, his voice gentle. My name is Levi. I'm a friend of your mom's. Elijah studied him with the frank curiosity of a child. You look like my friend Marcus's dad. Levi smiled. Do I? Yeah. He's tall too. Elijah turned to me. Can I have my snack now? I reached into my bag and pulled out a container of apple slices. Here you go. Why don't you eat them at the picnic table over there? Elijah took the container and walked to the nearby table, still glancing back at Levi curiously. He's smart, Levi observed. Very. And observant. He notices everything. Like his mother. I looked at Levi. What do you want, Levi? Really? I want to be part of his life. I want to be his father. You can't just walk in after 4 years and claim that role. I'm not trying to. I know it will take time. But I want the chance, Lillian. I deserve that chance. I watched Elijah eating his apple slices, completely unaware of how his world was about to change. And if I say no? Levi's expression hardened. Then I'll go to court. I don't want to, but I will. You'd put him through that? Would you? Because that's what will happen if you try to keep him from me. I knew he was right. As much as I wanted to protect Elijah, as much as I feared Levi would hurt him the way he'd hurt me, I couldn't legally keep them apart. And deep down, I wasn't sure I should. I need time, I said finally. This isn't just about you and me. It's about what's best for Elijah. I agree. But I'm not going to disappear again, Lillian. Not now that I know about him. I nodded, accepting the inevitable. We'll need to take this slowly. He doesn't know about you. He thinks his father is someone I dated briefly after my divorce. You told him I exist? In a way. He's asked about his dad before. I told him his father lives far away. Levi looked pained. At least you didn't tell him I was dead. I considered it. He almost smiled at that. I bet you did. Elijah came running back, empty container in hand. All done. Can I go play more? 10 more minutes, I said. Then we need to go home. As Elijah ran back to the playground, Levi turned to me. Let me take you both to dinner. That's moving too fast. Just dinner, Lillian. A chance for me to get to know him a little. We don't have to tell him who I am yet. I hesitated. I don't think. Please. Just dinner. I looked at Elijah happily climbing on the monkey bars, then back at Levi. His eyes, the same eyes our son had, were pleading. Fine. Dinner. But not tonight. I need to prepare him. Tomorrow. Next weekend. Saturday. He likes the pizza place on Maple Street. Levi nodded. Thank you. As we watched Elijah play, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Fear, anger, but also a surprising sense of relief. The secret I'd carried for so long was finally out. Whatever happened next, at least I wouldn't be carrying that burden anymore. Time to go, Elijah, I called. He ran over, slightly sweaty from playing. Can we come back tomorrow? Not tomorrow, but soon. Elijah noticed Levi again. Are you coming with us? Levi looked at me, then back at Elijah. Not today, buddy. But I'll see you again soon. Okay? Elijah nodded, already distracted by a dog walking past. Bye. As I gathered our things, Levi touched my arm. Lillian, thank you for meeting me today, for letting me see him. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. I'll call you about Saturday. Okay. As Elijah and I walked to the car, he looked back at Levi, who was still standing by the bench, watching us. Mommy, is that man your friend from the wedding? I nearly stumbled. What do you mean? The man in your pictures. The wedding pictures at Grandma's house. My mother had kept our wedding photos, despite my requests to put them away. Elijah had seen them during visits. Yes, I said carefully. He's an old friend. He looks nice. He is nice. The words surprised me as they came out of my mouth. Can he come to my birthday party? Your birthday is months away, silly. But can he? I helped Elijah into his car seat, buying time. We'll see. As I drove home, Elijah chattering about the playground and the dog he'd seen. I couldn't stop thinking about the look on Levi's face when he first saw our son. The wonder, the instant connection. Despite everything, despite my anger and fear, I couldn't deny that Elijah deserved to know his father. And maybe, just maybe, Levi deserved a chance to know his son. The week crawled by. I threw myself into work, scheduling extra surgeries, staying late at the hospital. Anything to keep my mind off the upcoming dinner with Levi. I told Elijah we were having dinner with Mommy's friend on Saturday, and he seemed excited about the pizza, if not the company. Vanessa called 3 times. I let it go to voicemail each time. I wasn't ready to explain why I'd left her wedding early or why her husband's best friend was suddenly interested in spending time with her sister and nephew. Eventually, I'd have to face her, but not yet. Saturday arrived too quickly. I dressed Elijah in his favorite dinosaur t-shirt and jeans, combed his hair, and tried to calm the butterflies in my stomach. Is your friend nice? Elijah asked as I tied his shoes. Yes, he's nice. Does he like dinosaurs? I smiled despite my nerves. I don't know. You'll have to ask him. We arrived at the pizza place 10 minutes early. It was a family restaurant with arcade games in the back and checkered tablecloths. Elijah immediately spotted the claw machine near the entrance. Can I try to get a toy, Mommy? Please. I handed him $1. Just once. Okay? As he ran to the machine, the door opened and Levi walked in. He was dressed casually again. Dark jeans and a navy sweater, and carrying a small gift bag. He spotted us immediately and walked over. Hi, he said, his eyes moving from me to Elijah, who was focused intently on the claw machine. Hi, I replied. You're early. So are you. We stood awkwardly for a moment. Then Levi held up the gift bag. I brought him something. Is that okay? I hesitated. What is it? A dinosaur book. The hostess at the wedding mentioned he likes dinosaurs. Vanessa told you about him? Just that you have a son who's obsessed with dinosaurs. I didn't tell her. He trailed off. That he's yours. That I'm his father, Levi corrected gently. Before I could respond, Elijah came running back, empty-handed but smiling. I almost got the blue one. He stopped when he saw Levi suddenly shy. Elijah, this is my friend Levi, I said. Remember I told you we were having dinner with him? Elijah nodded, half hiding behind my leg. Levi crouched down to his level. Hi Elijah. Your mom tells me you like dinosaurs. Elijah's eyes lit up. I love dinosaurs. T-Rex is my favorite. Really? I always liked Triceratops. They have 3 horns. Elijah informed him seriously. And a frill to protect their neck. Levi smiled. That's right. You know a lot about dinosaurs. I have books, Elijah said proudly. And a T-Rex toy that roars. Speaking of dinosaurs, Levi said, holding out the gift bag. I brought you something. Elijah looked at me for permission. I nodded, and he took the bag, peering inside. A book, he exclaimed, pulling out a large, colorful dinosaur encyclopedia. Look, Mommy. That's very nice, I said, meeting Levi's eyes over Elijah's head. What do you say? Thank you. Elijah was already flipping through the pages. Look, it has Ankylosaurus. He has a club tail. Why don't we get a table and you can show me your favorite dinosaurs? Levi suggested. We were seated at a booth near the back. Elijah insisted on sitting next to Levi so he could show him the book, and I found myself across from them, watching as my son excitedly pointed out different dinosaurs to the father he didn't know he had. They looked so alike sitting there, the same profile, the same animated way of talking with their hands. It was like watching a time-lapse of what Elijah would grow up to be. Do you like pizza? Elijah asked Levi. I love pizza. What kind do you like? Cheese. And sometimes pepperoni, but not the spicy kind. That sounds perfect to me. We ordered a cheese pizza for Elijah, half pepperoni for the adults, and sodas all around. As we waited, Elijah continued to show Levi his favorite dinosaurs, and Levi asked questions that delighted him. What do dinosaurs eat? How big were they? Did they make noise? I sat quietly watching them interact. Levi was good with him, patient, interested, asking questions at just the right level. It was a side of him I'd never seen before, and it made my chest ache with what might have been. Mommy says dinosaurs are extinct, Elijah announced. Extinct, I corrected gently. That means they all died a long time ago, Elijah explained to Levi. That's right, Levi said. But birds are actually dinosaurs that evolved. So not all of them are gone. Elijah's eyes widened. Really? Really? That robin you saw in the park? Distant cousin of T-Rex. Wow. Elijah looked at me. Did you know that, Mommy? I did, I said, smiling at his excitement. The pizza arrived, and we fell into an easier conversation. Levi asked Elijah about preschool, about his friends, about what he liked to do on weekends. Elijah, initially shy, was now chattering away as if he'd known Levi his whole life. Do you live in a big house? Elijah asked between bites. I have an apartment downtown, Levi said. It has a view of the city. Can I see it sometime? Levi glanced at me. That's up to your mom. Elijah turned to me with pleading eyes. Can we, Mommy? We'll see, I said, the same answer I gave to most of Elijah's requests that I wasn't ready to commit to. After pizza, Elijah spotted the arcade games. Can I play? Please. I reached for my wallet, but Levi was faster. I've got it. He pulled out a 20 and had the cashier change it for tokens. 10 minutes? I called as Elijah ran off with his tokens, Levi following close behind. I watched them from the table, Levi showing Elijah how to play skee-ball, lifting him up to reach the basketball hoop, cheering when he won tickets from the racing game. They were laughing, completely absorbed in each other. My phone buzzed with a text. Vanessa, Mom says you're having dinner with Levi Thornton and Elijah. What's going on? I stared at the message. Of course my mother had seen us. Atlanta might be a big city, but somehow we'd managed to choose the one pizza place where someone would recognize us. I put the phone away without responding. I'd deal with Vanessa later. Elijah and Levi returned to the table, Elijah clutching a small plastic dinosaur he'd exchanged his tickets for. Look what I got, Mommy. Levi helped me win lots of tickets. That's great, baby. Can Levi come to our house to see my other dinosaurs? I hesitated, looking at Levi. His expression was carefully neutral, but I could see the hope in his eyes. Not tonight, I said. It's almost your bedtime. Tomorrow. Elijah, Mr. Thornton probably has plans. I don't, Levi interrupted. I'm free tomorrow. Elijah looked between us, sensing the tension. Please, Mommy? He hasn't seen my T-Rex that roars. I sighed, knowing I was fighting a losing battle. Okay, tomorrow afternoon, but just for a little while. Elijah cheered, and Levi's smile was so genuine it made my heart skip. Thank you, he mouthed over Elijah's head. As we prepared to leave, Elijah insisted on showing Levi one last game. I used the moment alone to check my phone again. 3 more texts from Vanessa, each more demanding than the last. Call me now. Why is Levi with my nephew? Lillian, I swear to God, if you don't call me back. I put the phone away again. Tomorrow would be soon enough to deal with my sister. Outside the restaurant, Elijah gave Levi a high five. See you tomorrow. I'll show you all my dinosaurs. I can't wait, Levi said, his voice thick with emotion. As Elijah climbed into the car, Levi turned to me. Thank you for tonight, for letting me spend time with him. I nodded. He likes you. He's amazing, Lillian. You've done an incredible job with him. The compliment caught me off guard. Thank you. What time tomorrow? 2 o'clock. I'll text you the address. Levi hesitated, then said, When are we going to tell him who I am? The question I'd been dreading. I don't know yet. Let's take it slow. I understand, but I don't want to build a relationship with him based on a lie. It's not a lie. You are my friend. I'm also his father. I looked away. 1 step at a time, Levi. Please. He nodded. 1 step at a time. As I drove home, Elijah chattering excitedly about Levi and the arcade games and his new dinosaur book, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was losing control of the situation. Levi was already forming a bond with Elijah. My son was already asking to see him again. And somewhere across town, my sister was waiting for an explanation I wasn't sure how to give. The secret was out, and the ripples were spreading farther than I'd ever imagine. I put Elijah to bed that night with his new dinosaur book, reading 3 chapters before his eyes finally started to droop. As I kissed his forehead, he mumbled sleepily, I like your friend, Mommy. I'm glad, baby. He knows lots about dinosaurs. He does. Is he going to be your boyfriend? The question caught me off guard. No, sweetie. We're just friends. Marcus's mom has a boyfriend. He takes them to the zoo. That's nice. Go to sleep now. I turned off the light and stood in the doorway, watching him drift off. My phone buzzed again, Vanessa, for the 6th time. I couldn't avoid her forever. I went to the kitchen, poured a glass of wine, and called my sister. She answered on the first ring. Finally. What the hell is going on, Lillian? Hello to you too. Don't hello me. Why were you having dinner with Levi Thornton? And why did Mom say he was acting like he knows Elijah? I took a deep breath. It's complicated, Vanessa. Then uncomplicate it. James says Levi told him you two used to be married. Is that true? Yes. Why didn't you ever tell me? All these years, and you never mentioned your ex-husband is one of the most successful investment bankers in Atlanta. Of course that would be what Vanessa focused on. Not the pain of my divorce, not the secret I'd been keeping, but Levi's status. We've been divorced for 5 years. It wasn't relevant. Wasn't relevant? Lillian. He's my husband's best friend. How could you not tell me? I didn't know they were friends until I saw him at your wedding. There was a pause. Is that why you left early? Because you ran into your ex? Something like that. And now you're having dinner with him? With Elijah? What's going on? I closed my eyes, knowing I had to tell her the truth. Levi is Elijah's father. Silence. Then, what? Levi is Elijah's father, I repeated. I was pregnant when we divorced. I never told him. Oh my God. Vanessa's voice was barely a whisper. Does he know now? Yes. He figured it out at your wedding. And you're just having pizza with him? Like it's normal. We're trying to figure things out. For Elijah's sake. Does Elijah know? Not yet. Another silence. Mom is going to lose her mind. I know. She always wondered why you wouldn't tell us who his father was. She had all these theories. Married man, one-night stand, sperm donor. Well, now you know. Why didn't you tell Levi? All these years, Why keep it a secret? It was the question everyone would ask, the one I'd been asking myself for 5 years. He left me, Vanessa. He chose his career over our marriage. I found out I was pregnant the day after he asked for a divorce. So you punished him by keeping his child a secret? That's really messed up, Lillian. Her judgment stung even though I'd expected it. You don't understand what it was like. Then explain it to me, because from where I'm standing, you kept a father from his son for 4 years. That's not the sister I thought I knew. The sister you knew? I laughed bitterly. Vanessa, you've never known me. Not really. You've been too busy being mom and dad's perfect daughter to notice anything about my life. That's not fair. Isn't it? When was the last time you asked how I was doing? Really asked, not just the polite question at family dinners. When was the last time you offered to help with Elijah? Or asked about my work? Or showed any interest in my life at all? I've been busy. We're all busy. I'm raising a child alone and running a surgical practice. But I still make time for the people I care about. Vanessa was quiet for a moment. I didn't realize you felt that way, because you never asked. I'm asking now. Tell me what happened with Levi. All of it. So I did. I told her about the Singapore job offer, about our arguments, about finding out I was pregnant the day after he asked for a divorce. I told her about my fear that he'd reject our child the way he'd rejected our marriage, about my anger and hurt, about the decision I'd made to raise Elijah alone. I know it was wrong, I admitted finally. I know he had a right to know about his son. But at the time, it felt like the only choice I had. And now I don't know. He wants to be part of Elijah's life. He's coming over tomorrow to see him again. Do you think he'll fight for custody? The question sent a chill through me. He said he would if I tried to keep Elijah from him. Would he win? I don't know. He's Elijah's biological father. He has rights. But you've been Elijah's only parent for 4 years. That might not matter to a judge. Vanessa sighed. What a mess. Yeah. For what it's worth, Levi's a good guy. James thinks the world of him. He left me when I needed him most. People change, Lillian. Maybe he has too. I wasn't ready to consider that possibility. Maybe. What are you going to tell mom and dad? The truth, I guess. Eventually. Sooner rather than later. Mom's already calling everyone she knows, trying to figure out why you were having dinner with that handsome man from Vanessa's wedding. Despite everything, I laughed. Of course she is. Want me to run interference until you're ready? The offer surprised me. You'd do that. You're my sister, Lillian. Despite what you think, I do care about you. Thank you. That would help. After we hung up, I sat in the quiet kitchen, sipping my wine and thinking about tomorrow. Levi would be here in my home, spending time with our son. The boundaries I'd carefully maintained for 5 years were crumbling, and I wasn't sure how to feel about it. Part of me was still angry, at Levi for leaving, at myself for keeping the secret for so long. But another part, a part one didn't want to acknowledge, felt relieved. The weight of the lie had been heavier than I'd realized. The next day, Elijah was up early, excited about Levi's visit. He insisted on setting up all his dinosaur toys in the living room, arranging them in what he called chronological order, though it was really just by size. Do you think Levi will like my dinosaur museum? He asked as he carefully positioned his T-Rex. I'm sure he will. Can we show him my room too? I have dinosaur posters. If you want to. Elijah nodded seriously. I want to. At exactly 2 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Elijah ran to the door, bouncing with excitement. He's here. I opened the door to find Levi standing there, holding another gift bag and looking slightly nervous. Hi, he said. Hi, Levi, Elijah exclaimed. Come see my dinosaurs. I made a museum. Levi smiled, the tension leaving his face. A museum? That sounds amazing. He followed Elijah into the living room, where my son proceeded to give a detailed tour of his dinosaur collection, complete with facts about each one. Levi listened attentively, asking questions and seeming genuinely interested. I watched from the doorway, struck again by how natural they seemed together. If I didn't know better, I'd think they'd known each other all their lives. "This is for you," Levi said when Elijah paused for breath, handing him the gift bag. "To add to your museum." Elijah tore into the bag, pulling out a large, detailed model of a stegosaurus. "Wow, it's so cool. Look at the plates on its back. They're called scuts," Levi told him. "Scientists think they might have helped regulate the dinosaur's temperature." "Like a solar panel?" Levi looked impressed. "Exactly like that. You're very smart." Elijah beamed. "Mommy says I get my brains from her." Levi glanced at me, a small smile playing at his lips. "Your mom is right. She's the smartest person I know." The compliment caught me off guard. Cleared my throat. "Would anyone like a snack?" "I made cookies." "Chocolate chip?" Elijah asked hopefully. "Of course." "Levi, do you like chocolate chip cookies?" "They're the best kind." "They're definitely the best kind," Levi agreed. In the kitchen, I arranged cookies on a plate while Levi and Elijah continued their dinosaur discussion in the living room. I could hear Elijah's excited voice explaining the difference between herbivores and carnivores, and Levi's deeper tones asking thoughtful questions. This was what Elijah had been missing. A father who shared his interests, who could teach him things I couldn't, who could be the male role model I tried to provide through uncles and friends and colleagues. The realization made my chest ache. When I returned with the cookies, Elijah was showing Levi his dinosaur book collection. "And this one shows what they might have looked like with feathers." "That's fascinating," Levi said, looking through the book. "Scientists are learning new things about dinosaurs all the time." "When I grow up, I want to be a paleontologist," Elijah announced. "That's a person who digs up dinosaur bones." "That's a great job," Levi said. "You'd be excellent at it." Elijah took a cookie from the plate. "What do you do for your job?" "I work with money," Levi explained. "I help people invest it so they can have more in the future." "Like a bank." "Similar to that, yes. My mommy fixes kids when they're sick," Elijah said proudly. "She's a doctor." "I know," Levi said, looking at me. "She's a very good doctor." "The best," Elijah agreed. "She fixed my arm when I fell off the swing." "You broke your arm?" Levi asked, concern crossing his face. "Just a small fracture," I said quickly. "Last summer." He was in a cast for 4 weeks. "It was blue," Elijah added. "All my friends signed it." I could see the pain in Levi's eyes. Another milestone he'd missed. Another moment he couldn't get back. "Can I show Levi my room now?" Elijah asked, already heading for the stairs. "Sure," I said. "But clean up your dinosaurs first." Elijah quickly gathered his toys, placing them carefully in their bin, then grabbed Levi's hand. "Come on. I have posters." As they headed upstairs, I sat on the couch, listening to Elijah's excited chatter and Levi's responses. This was happening so fast. In just 2 days, Levi had gone from a painful memory to a regular presence in our lives. And Elijah was already attached to him. What would happen when we finally told him the truth? Would he be angry that we'd kept it from him? Would he feel betrayed? Or would he simply accept Levi as his father, with the resilience children often show? And what about Levi? How long would he be content with these visits? These small glimpses into his son's life? Eventually, he'd want more overnight stays, shared holidays, a formal custody arrangement. The thought made my stomach clench. I heard laughter from upstairs, then footsteps on the stairs. Elijah came bounding down, followed by Levi. "Mommy, can we go to the Natural History Museum with Levi? He's never seen the big T-Rex skeleton." I looked at Levi, who shrugged apologetically. "I mentioned I haven't been to the museum here." "Please, Mommy? Next weekend? Please." I hesitated. "We'll see." "That means yes," Elijah told Levi confidently. "It means we'll see," I corrected. Elijah rolled his eyes in a perfect imitation of me. "But it usually means yes." Levi laughed, and despite myself, I smiled too. The rest of the afternoon passed quickly. Elijah showed Levi his favorite board game, and they played while I prepared dinner. I hadn't planned to invite Levi to stay, but when Elijah asked if he could, I found myself nodding. We ate spaghetti at the kitchen table, Elijah chattering about school and his friends and the field trip to the aquarium next month. Levi listened attentively, asking questions and sharing stories of his own childhood visits to aquariums. It felt strangely domestic, the three of us at the table, like a glimpse into an alternate reality where Levi and I had stayed together, where he'd been there for Elijah's birth and first steps and words. A reality that could never exist now, no matter what happened next. After dinner, Elijah asked Levi to read him a bedtime story. I hesitated, then agreed. It was a step toward the relationship they would eventually have, and I couldn't keep standing in the way. I listened from the hallway as Levi read, Where the Wild Things Are, doing different voices for each character and making Elijah giggle. When he finished, I heard Elijah ask, "Will you come back tomorrow?" "Not tomorrow," Levi said gently, "but soon. I promise." "Pinky promise?" "Pinky promise." I stepped into the room. "Time for sleep, Elijah." He yawned. "Can Levi tuck me in too?" I nodded, and Levi helped pull the covers up to Elijah's chin. "Good night, buddy. Thanks for showing me your dinosaurs." "Good night, Levi. I had fun today." I kissed Elijah's forehead. "Sweet dreams, baby." In the hallway, Levi's eyes were suspiciously bright. "Thank you for today," he said quietly, "for letting me be part of this." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. "Lillian, I know this is complicated. I know you're worried about what happens next. But I want you to know that I'm not going anywhere. Not this time. You can't promise that. I can. And I am." He looked me directly in the eyes. "I missed 4 years of his life. I won't miss another day if I can help it." The intensity in his voice made me believe him, and that was perhaps the most frightening thing of all. As Levi left that evening, standing on my porch with the setting sun behind him, I knew our lives had changed forever. There was no going back to the careful isolation I'd built, no returning to the story I told myself about a father who wouldn't have wanted his son. "We need to tell him soon," Levi said quietly. "He deserves to know the truth." I nodded, finally accepting what I'd been fighting against. "Next weekend, after the museum." "Thank you." He hesitated, then added, "I meant what I said, Lillian. I'm not going anywhere this time." After he left, I sat on the couch in my quiet living room, surrounded by evidence of Elijah's and Levi's day together, the new Stegosaurus model on the coffee table, the board game still set up on the floor, a children's book about dinosaurs open to a page about fossils. My phone buzzed with a text from Maya. "How did it go with Levi today?" I typed back, "Better than I expected. Worse than I hoped." "What does that mean?" "It means Elijah already adores him, and I don't know how to feel about that." The next few days passed in a blur of work and routine. Elijah asked about Levi constantly. When would he visit again? Could he come to school for show and tell? Did he like pizza with mushrooms? Each question was a reminder of how quickly he'd accepted this new person in his life, how naturally they'd connected. Levi texted daily, asking about Elijah's day, sending dinosaur facts he thought our son would enjoy, respectfully maintaining the boundaries I'd set while making it clear he was eager for more time with his son. By Friday, I'd made peace with my decision. After our museum visit on Saturday, we would tell Elijah the truth. I prepared a script in my head, practiced the words I would use to explain to a 4-year-old why his father hadn't been in his life until now. Saturday morning dawned bright and clear. Elijah was up at 6, too excited to sleep. "Is it time to go yet? Is Levi here?" "Not for 3 more hours, baby. Let's have breakfast first." Levi arrived exactly at 9, carrying a small backpack. "I brought snacks," he explained, "and a camera, if that's okay." I nodded. "That's thoughtful." The museum was crowded, but Elijah didn't notice. He was too busy pulling Levi from exhibit to exhibit, pointing out his favorite dinosaurs, reciting facts he'd memorized from his books. Levi matched his enthusiasm, taking photos of Elijah next to the displays, reading the information plaques aloud, asking questions that made Elijah think. I followed a few steps behind, watching them together. They had the same walk, the same way of tilting their head when they were curious about something. Genetics was a powerful thing. "Mommy, look," Elijah called, pointing to a massive T-Rex skeleton. "It's even bigger than in my book." I joined them, smiling at his excitement. "It's pretty impressive. Can I take a picture of you both?" Levi asked, holding up his camera. I hesitated, then nodded. Elijah and I stood in front of the T-Rex, his small hand in mine, both of us smiling as Levi captured the moment. "Now one with you and Elijah," I said, surprising myself. Levi handed me the camera and crouched next to our son. They smiled, two versions of the same face, and I pressed the button. After the museum, we had lunch at the cafe, then visited the gift shop where Levi bought Elijah a T-Rex plush toy despite my protests that he was spoiling him. "Just this once," Levi said. "To remember today." As we walked to the parking lot, Elijah between us holding both our hands, I knew it was time. We'd agreed to tell him at home, in familiar surroundings where he would feel safe. The drive back was quiet, Elijah tired from the excitement, clutching his new toy and yawning. At home, I made hot chocolate while Levi helped Elijah arrange his new dinosaur with the others. "Elijah," I said, sitting on the couch and patting the spot next to me. "Levi and I need to talk to you about something important." He climbed up beside me, looking curious. "Am I in trouble?" "No, baby. Not at all." I looked at Levi, who sat on Elijah's other side. "It's about Levi. About who he is." "He's your friend," Elijah said confidently. "Yes, but he's also something else." I took a deep breath. "Elijah, Levi is your daddy." Elijah's eyes widened. He looked at Levi, then back at me. "My daddy?" "Yes," Levi said gently. "I'm your father." "But you said my daddy lived far away," Elijah said to me, confusion in his voice. "He did, for a long time. But now he's back, and he wants to be part of your life." Elijah was quiet for a moment, processing this information. "Why didn't you tell me before?" "That's my fault," Levi said before I could answer. "I was away for a long time, but I'm back now, and I want to get to know you if that's okay." Elijah looked at him thoughtfully. "Do you like dinosaurs?" Levi smiled. "I love dinosaurs, especially since I met you." "And you'll stay? You won't go far away again?" "I promise. I'll be right here in Atlanta, as close to you as your mom will let me be." Elijah turned to me. "Can he stay close, Mommy?" I nodded, my throat tight. "Yes, baby. He can stay close." Elijah seemed to consider this, then nodded decisively. "Okay. Can I call you Daddy?" Levi's eyes filled with tears. "I would like that very much." "Okay, Daddy." Elijah said the word experimentally, then smiled. "Can we go to the zoo next? They have Komodo dragons. They're like real dragons." Just like that, with the simple acceptance only a child could offer, our new reality was established. Levi was Daddy. We would go to the zoo. Life would continue, different but somehow right. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of adjustment. Levi came over for dinner 3 times a week. He took Elijah to the zoo, to the park, to a dinosaur exhibit at the science center. He attended Elijah's preschool graduation, sitting beside me in the audience, both of us teary-eyed as our son received his little diploma. We established a routine. Elijah would spend Saturday afternoons with Levi, then Sunday mornings, then eventually whole weekends. Each transition was carefully negotiated, each boundary respected. My parents were shocked when I finally told them the truth, my mother oscillating between outrage that I'd kept such a secret and delight that her grandson had a father who was, in her words, successful and handsome. My father was quieter, taking Levi aside for a long talk that neither of them would fully disclose to me afterward. Vanessa and James invited us all for dinner, an awkward but ultimately healing evening where my sister made a genuine effort to connect with me, asking about my work, offering to babysit Elijah, showing interest in my life in a way she never had before. "I'm sorry I wasn't there for you," she said as we washed dishes together. "I didn't realize how much you were carrying alone. I didn't let anyone see it," I admitted. "I was too proud to ask for help." "Well, you're not alone anymore," she said, squeezing my hand. "And neither is Elijah." 6 months after that fateful wedding, Levi and I sat in a mediator's office, finalizing our custody agreement. Joint legal custody, with Elijah living primarily with me but spending every other weekend and one night a week with Levi. Holiday schedules, vacation arrangements, decision-making processes, all carefully outlined and agreed upon. Are you sure about this? The mediator asked me. You've been his sole parent for 4 years. The courts might give you full custody if you pushed for it. I looked at Levi, who had proven himself to be the father Elijah deserved. Patient, loving, consistent, putting our son's needs above his own at every turn. I'm sure, I said. This is what's best for Elijah. Outside the mediator's office, Levi turned to me. Thank you, Lillian, for giving me this chance, for sharing him with me. He needs you, I said simply. I see that now. What about you? Levi asked quietly. What do you need? The question caught me off guard. For so long, I'd focused solely on Elijah's needs, on being both mother and father, on building a life that didn't require anyone else. I hadn't considered what I might need. I don't know, I answered honestly, but I'm starting to figure it out. That night, as I tucked Elijah into bed, he asked the question I'd been expecting for months. Mommy, why don't you and Daddy live in the same house? Marcus's parents do. Well, sometimes grown-ups live in different houses even though they both love their children very much. But don't you like Daddy? I smiled. I like him very much, but living together is complicated. Because you fight? No, baby. We don't fight. It's just different for us. Elijah yawned. I think you should try it. Living together. Then I could have both of you all the time. Go to sleep, silly boy. You have school tomorrow. As I turned out the light, I couldn't help but think about Elijah's suggestion. Not that Levi and I would ever live together again. Too much had happened, too many years had passed. But the idea that we could build something new, something that wasn't defined by the pain of our past but by the joy of our son's future. 5 years ago, I'd made a choice born of hurt and fear. I kept a secret that had shaped all our lives. But secrets have a way of surfacing, of demanding to be acknowledged. And sometimes, when they finally come to light, they bring not the destruction we feared but the healing we needed all along. Elijah has his father now. Levi has his son. And I have the knowledge that even the hardest truths, when finally faced, can lead to something beautiful. The truth always finds its way to the surface. And when it does, it's not the end of the story. It's just the beginning of a new chapter. If the story touched you in any way, please hit that subscribe button. Your support means everything to me, and I promise to keep sharing these real, raw moments from life. Drop a comment below telling me about a time when a secret in your life finally came to light. Because we all have them, and sometimes sharing them is the first step toward healing.